はい、よろしくお願いします。It's the Sunday talk from Daishu-in West on Koju. Thank you for tuning in. We have a lovely fall day here at the temple. The rain has stopped for the time being, and had a chance to clean up the place a little bit. There's a lot to be said about how we get through difficult periods as far as practice goes. We practice, and all the different systems give us something to hang on to in a way. There's nothing accomplished by practice. But people being as people are, if there isn't some sense of progress or something being accomplished, we usually don't make it very, very far. So all the different systems, despite the fact that there's absolutely nothing gained through practice whatsoever, every system has its own way of sort of fooling the practitioner into continuing. I think Shunryu Suzaki said you have to give the practitioner a little candy so that they progress. So that not progress, but so they continue, so they don't just quit. Because if you're not getting anything from it, if you're not seeing any improvement, quote unquote, why are you doing it anyway? In this particular system, interested people learn the basics at a temple like Daishu-in West or in Japan somewhere, and then you go to the monastery. That's the path. But the monastery itself is a place where there isn't anything to hang on to. There isn't any practice. Whatever you do is wrong. Nobody's encouraging. It's just hard. There's nothing to grab onto and say, well, okay, this is really, really hard, but at least I'm X. At least I'm smarter, or learn something new today that I didn't know yesterday. There is that. You certainly do learn a lot if you're excited about learning how to make the rice and clean the moss gardens or that sort of a thing. You learn a lot. Of course, it's always wrong the first couple of years anyway. So it doesn't feel that way. So you don't really have that. You might think you did a good job, but nobody's going to actually acknowledge it if you did. If you ask, or if there's anything said about it at all, it's just going to be, that's terrible. Do it better next time. So there really isn't anything that we can grab onto and say, okay. So how do you get through? Like, there has to be something that you look towards. For myself, because I was just asked, I was just stubborn. I don't have any special desire for practice. I'm not some, particularly fervent individual. I don't have some kind of special trust or enthusiasm for Zen Buddhism necessarily. That came afterwards. At the time, I just refused to quit and just kept putting my foot in, one foot in front of the other, whether it was making the rice or sweeping the moss garden or whatever it was. I was just determined to do better and not quit. And that's enough. That's enough. You just have to have something. There has to be something. If there's nothing, then you look around and there's just like, well, why am I doing this anyway? Why should I do this? I mean, the hell with it. And I think a lot of people have felt that. I think a lot of people, they get to that spot. And I mean, I certainly felt that way too. I was just refused to quit. It was just like, well, I might feel that way, but it doesn't change anything. While I'm going to keep doing as, working as hard as I can while feeling this way. But if you're not that stubborn, then you're in the middle of feeling like there's no reason to do whatever you're doing and it's just difficult. Why keep putting one foot in front of the other? And I think, this is certainly not a new experience as far as practitioners go. I think it's almost the norm, actually, for serious practitioners that they go through a period like this. But if we look sort of historically, my suspicion is that a lot of the amazing roshis and teachers that we look up to now, a lot of them just didn't have any other opportunities. They didn't have any place to go. They might have been have my sort of variety of stubbornness, and maybe not. Maybe they didn't have that stubbornness. Maybe they hated it and they wanted to stop, but there just wasn't any other opportunity. There wasn't any place to go. For whatever reason, each of us, because of our own karmic affinities, have experiences that don't necessarily happen for other people. Right? We have a particular life, and particular things come up for us that other people don't experience. But we usually have options. Something, or it appears as if we have options. Something comes up for us, and I mean, particularly if we're relatively wealthy, or just not living a subsistence lifestyle, and for myself as a straight white male, lower middle class, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted, and there were whatever happened, even if the consequences were bad, I made poor decisions, then something would work out. Something's going to work out. It's not going to end my life, or it's not going to put my life in a situation where it's inconceivably difficult to recover from. So therefore, I can just sort of try things and do this and do that. And if it's a mistake and I get burned, I can fix it later. I can recover and still make something out of it. Which is just being able to say that, just being able to do that is an extremely wealthy position to be in. And I mean, in looking at and having that opportunity, that's the definition of opportunity, right? You can make mistakes and still make it work out. And so given that opportunity, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with that opportunity? And that's how I ended up being a monk. It's like, well, what's the best thing that I could do? Like, well, okay. I mean, this I can't think of a better thing than doing this path, wherever it takes me. It's the best thing that I can do with that opportunity. And so that's how I became a monk. But if you don't have that conviction that it is the best thing, if you don't have the conviction, to get through the difficult times when it doesn't seem like it's amounting to anything, when it's just difficult and hard and terrible, then there's no reason, when you're in that position, then there's no reason to continue, because you can just quit, and then something else will work out eventually. Whereas in the old days, I have a feeling that it was not quite the case. We read about long ago in China, and under Master Obaku there were 2,000 monks. Well, you can't do Sanzen for 2,000 people. I'm sorry, that just isn't going to work out. He's not having a one-on-one teaching relationship with 2,000 people. It's not working. This is a whole village we're talking about. So most of those people are just there because being a monk is kind of a cushy lifestyle. They're guaranteed that they're going to get a bed and a bowl of rice if they participate in the monastery activity. And they don't have any other place to go. And maybe from that, they encounter Buddhism for real. They're probably already ordained monks. They're just, and you read in the books, they refer to them, as, clothes hangers and rice bags, in that they just put on robes and they just eat rice. They're not real monks, you're just a clothes hanger and a rice bag. And I think that's pretty normal. These people have nowhere else to go. And from that position of being a clothes hanger and a rice bag, maybe they actually encounter Buddhism and they develop some interest in it. It's happened before, and it will happen again. You end up in this situation just to get a meal, and you end up actually being a good monk and being a good priest and learning something about yourself. And maybe not. And maybe you just continue, being a clothes hanger and rice bag and chasing after pleasure and trying to avoid pain for the rest of your life. And, some people, that's the way it is. But there has to be something. If there's going to be, any actual progress in what we call practice, there has to be some spark there, some interest. And for the people that don't have it, then they should stop and do something else. If they have the opportunity, if they have someplace else to go. Sometimes having someplace else to go works against you, because when it's hard and difficult, and even though you might, if you dig deep, you might be able to find that stubbornness or find that interest, that motivation to learn about yourself, to learn about Buddhism, to be something more than just the same jerk that you were this morning. But you have someplace else to go where it's easy. You can just, you can be an Instagram influencer in your mom's basement, whatever. People today have a lot of options. So why do something difficult and painful? So when things are hard and you're looking at your options, it starts to sound pretty good just to go where people cut you slack and they say, oh, well, you don't have to do the hard thing. It's okay. You can just, be here and be a clothes hanger and a rice bag. And that's okay too. They help you rationalize your own laziness. Which is not being a friend of the way. Here we talk about friends of the way, those people that help you on the path. And sometimes being that understanding and allowing person is not actually being a friend of the way. Dotomo. That person that says, hey, this is the path, and I'll help you walk it. And this assumes a lot of things. One is that we're willing and interested in walking the path, and that we're stubborn enough to keep going, or motivated enough to keep going, and that we're unwilling to take the easy way out and just find some more comfortable place to be. So we have to dig deep, and if things, if our decisions are wrong, if we make a mistake, hopefully we have the opportunity to repair it and to do something else. And all that is required there is being able to say, I made a mistake, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I've had, and I'm going to go do something else. And that also is practice. Things change, causes and conditions change, and different things come into being. And just having the awareness and maturity to say, this is changing now, thank you for that experience, I'm going to go do something else now, is a mature way of expressing that change. So we have to be very, very careful when changes happen, when we start encountering difficulty. And it requires discernment to know when we're just being lazy and when we've made a mistake. And we need to bow our heads and say, I was wrong, and I'm going to go do something else now. What we shouldn't do is just kind of exit stage left without saying anything. That doesn't work good for anybody. But I digress, so please reflect on it. Next weekend is our intro weekend. All our slots are full, so we'll have another one, I think, in late February or early March, and I'll post about that and mention it at the end of these talks. So if you're interested, there will be another opportunity, and I will get on next Sunday and upload a short talk afterwards. Arigatou gozaimasu.